Oscar De La Hoya reacts to the Canelo Alvarez lawsuit and says, I've got peace of mind. Knuckleheads, welcome to the Fighters Rep, where we give you free fights, interviews in the fight game, and fight commentary from the mind of a promoter. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you guys for watching yesterday's video where I explained the lawsuit. I appreciate all your comments, all your views. Over 7,000 people have watched it so far and counting. A lot of people subscribed and joined Knucklehead Nation, the dopest fight channel on YouTube, Fighters Rep. So I thank you guys for doing that. And I'm making this video sort of as a follow-up because Oscar De La Hoya has reacted to the whole situation. And it looks like he's saying that he's got peace of mind. Now, I always admire a man that can keep his cool in times of tragedy and catastrophe. You kind of got to be the rock when you've got all these people underneath you and following you. And De La Hoya definitely has that. He's got an entire business. He's got a family. He's got an entire legacy. So he's kind of got to be a rock in this situation. But that being said, this is definitely a scary situation because this could mean the end of Oscar De La Hoya, his business, and all these agreements between him, DAZN, Canelo, and everything else. So, while I appreciate the reaction, I don't know what's really going on in the mind of Oscar De La Hoya. I do hope that the reaction is just sort of a facade to show people that, hey, I'm keeping it cool. I do hope he's taking this situation seriously because it is definitely a serious situation. The amount of money that Canelo Alvarez is asking in this lawsuit, $280 million, is a whole lot of money. And I don't think that that includes attorney fees and everything else that's associated with a lawsuit. So that's probably another, additional number that Oscar De La Hoya is not going to want to hear about. That being said, if you look on Google right now, you'll find a lot of articles that say Oscar De La Hoya talks about Canelo lawsuit or something to that effect. But in all honesty, that's actually fake news. You see, what Oscar De La Hoya revealed to Boxing Scene appears to have happened prior to the world finding out about the lawsuit. And I wanted to talk about that real quick because I feel like it buttresses my suspicion as to what caused this entire lawsuit. And if you guys watched yesterday's video, you know that what I believe caused the lawsuit was a potential inconsistency between the two contracts. It looks like, at least from Canelo's complaint, Canelo believed that he was to have the final word on the people that he faced with regards to his contract. And according to Canelo's complaint, again, DAZN believes that it had sort of the final word to determine, who he's going to fight, or approve, rather, who he's going to fight. And, Oscar's comments to the Boxing Scene, again, are telling, and they buttress my suspicion. And let me go ahead and read some of the quotes so you guys can see what I mean. So De La Hoya told Boxing Scene that, in his mind, Canelo is willing to fight anyone. He says he's proved it many times in his career, which I do think Canelo has proved that many times in his career, but I also think he's been cherry-picking as of late. De La Hoya then goes on to say that, he's willing to fight Billy Joe Saunders, he's willing to fight Callum Smith, and that his frustration, De La Hoya's frustration, is with DAZN. And he's saying that his frustration is the obligation that DAZN has to its fans and to Canelo. He goes on to say that another frustration is their obligation to live up to the contract that they signed. It's a huge frustration. It's a huge deal breaker for us. That's where the frustration is. And then he goes on to say, and this is key, he says, how can you fight a top-level opponent like Callum Smith, an elite opponent like Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders, and then have DAZN not live by their contract? It doesn't make sense to me, and that's where the frustration is, they're not living up to their contract. So essentially what he's saying here is DAZN doesn't think that these two guys are premier opponents in order to give Canelo Alvarez the full $35 million that he feels he's entitled to. And that's confirmed later on in the interview when De La Hoya says, if anyone tells me Callum Smith or Billy Joe Saunders are not premium fighters, I must be crazy. So, I mean, there you have it, knuckleheads. You know, I hate to say it, but I feel like I'm kind of spot on as to why this entire thing came about. Again, you've got two contracts. Of course, there are some more involved in the situation if you read the complaint, which I linked in the last video. But there are essentially two contracts. They don't seem to be perfectly consistent according to what Canelo has written in his complaint. I feel like this language from De La Hoya, again, supports that notion that these contracts are not consistent. One party thinks they get to decide, you know, who Canelo fights. The other party thinks that they get to decide or approve. Same difference. And that's why we're at an impasse. My curiosity really kicks in where, you know, I look at this situation and I'm still kind of baffled. You know, I don't understand how this could happen in a situation where there's so much money at stake. There's so much at stake. It's kind of silly, really. It's kind of unexplainable to me. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like in a situation like this where there's so much money involved, I would have been hyper vigilant. But who knows? I'm not in the situation, and I hope to never be in a situation where I've got, you know, $365 million worth of contract about to head to court and potentially get flushed down the drain. So, knuckleheads, Oscar De La Hoya says that he's got peace of mind. You know, is he just putting out a front? Does he really have peace of mind? What do you think about this whole situation? Do you think that they can, you know, settle their issues and continue with the contract? Do you think Canelo is just trying to maybe get out of this already because he's tired and frustrated? I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon, join Knucklehead Nation, and definitely get your Fighters Rep gear, shirts, hoodies, tank tops, masks, right in the link below, because if you don't have your Fighters Rep gear, then you don't know shit about the fight game. Knuckleheads, I'm out.